The New York Mets got their series off to a great start in Arizona. Can they keep the momentum going in Game 2? I'll talk about that and more on today's show.
You are Locked On Mets, your daily New York Mets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all you amazing Mets fans. You're watching Locked On Mets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Ryan Finkelstein. If you want to find any of my work, follow me on X at Finkelstein Ryan. You can also find some of my writing at justbaseball.com, where I work as the managing editor. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Well, Sean Manaea was on the hill for the New York Mets on Tuesday to try to get this series off on a good note, and he did exactly that. He was brilliant in this start, and he got plenty of run support. It all began in the second inning when Pete Alonso hit his 28th home run of the season, the 220th home run of his career, which was a significant number as he tied Mike Piazza for the third most home runs in franchise history. Piazza did that in 972 games. Pete Alonso got to 220 in 816 games. He has been the most prolific home run hitter in Mets history by home runs per game, but he might not get atop this list. That is a conversation for this offseason. But third is probably he's going to finish this year. Only needs one more to pass Piazza for good. And then it's David Wright, who's 22 ahead of Alonso. And then you got Darryl Strawberry, who is 32 ahead of Pete Alonso. So again, those two guys are going to be out of reach this year. And whether he gets another shot to pass them will be decided this offseason. But getting back to this game, later on in that second inning, JD Martinez drew a walk that advanced to third on a comeback off the bat of Tyrone Taylor, where Brandon Pfaadt threw it into the outfield. So JD Martinez advances to third. Taylor stayed at first. Jeff McNeil hits a would-be double play ball, but he was running out of the box. He beat it out, and that allowed JD Martinez to score. And Sean Manaea had a 2-0 lead in early. That's all he really needed. But Jeff McNeil would start another rally in the fifth inning that resulted in a lot of runs for the New York Mets. McNeil hit a leadoff double, would score on a base hit by Francisco Alvarez. Then you had Lindor and Vientos each single, with Alvarez scoring on Vientos' hit. Brandon Nimmo singled to load up the bases. Jesse Winker hit a sacrifice fly. JD Martinez singled to load the bases again. Jordan Montgomery came into the game for Brandon Pfaadt, and he hit Tyrone Taylor on the foot. That scored the fourth run of the inning, sixth run of the game. Jeff McNeil came back up. He drew a walk, a great at-bat by Jeff. That brought in another run. Then Francisco Alvarez reached on an error by Geraldo Perdomo, and the Mets had a 6-run rally in that fifth inning, giving them an 8-0 lead. And they essentially cruised from there. As I said, Manaea was brilliant, particularly through the first 6 innings, where he struck out 10 and allowed just one hit without walking a batter. He did run into some trouble in the 7th inning, giving up a leadoff homer. He then gave up a base hit, got a pop out, struck out his 11th batter of the day. But Corbin Carroll got him for a 2-run homer on a fastball that he just didn't quite get all the way up. Carroll drives it out of the ballpark, left on left, and that ended the day for Manaea, 1 out away from completing 7 innings. But didn't matter. The Mets bullpen was able to hold on from there. Reed Garrett came on, made us all nervous. He got a comebacker that was hit softly, I guess softer than he expected, and he got sniped from somebody. It had to be, right? Because how else would he have fallen over his feet in that embarrassing of a fashion? But he did. Can you believe they rolled out a hit? I mean, I get it, I guess, but how is that not an error? Anyway, he gives up another hit after that before finally getting a pop out, because that was the inning. The Diamondbacks are a great offensive team, and if that inning extended and Garrett started giving up runs, we all would have been really nervous, but they get through that 7th. Phil Maton comes on for the 8th. He gives up a leadoff double, buckles in after that, gets a couple of outs. Jock Peterson comes off the bench for a big spot. The Mets had Danny Young ready. He comes into the game left on left, strikes out Jock Peterson. Then in the 9th inning, Adam Ottavino finishes the game with a perfect frame. So overall, solid work out of the bullpen and a great start by Sean Manaea. Offensively, really good game. Lindor, Vientos, Nimmo, and JD Martinez all had multi-hit nights. Nimmo had 3 hits. Hopefully that gets him going. Everyone in the lineup outside of Jesse Winker got a base hit in this game, and Jesse Winker got a sacrifice fly. So in that sense, everybody in the lineup got either a hit or an RBI. Mets racked up 13 hits, 2 walks. They actually left some opportunities on the table. They were 4 for 16 with runners in scoring position, but you put up 8 runs, doesn't really matter. Jordan Montgomery, though, really saved the bullpen for the Diamondbacks because they were in that bullpen in the 5th inning, but Montgomery still stretched out as a starting pitcher, but now just pitching out of the pen, gave them 4 1/3 of kind of scoreless relief. The runs that he gave up were charged to 5, but really settled in after that for them. And that's big because moving forward, that really good bullpen for the Diamondbacks has now had 2 days of rest. So the formula that I talked about going into this series, it still holds true. As I said, you got to win these games early, get great starting pitching, and score runs against a Diamondbacks rotation that can be beat because that bullpen is really solid and now solid and rested very well with a lot of really good guys. So we'll see what the Mets can do. The Diamondbacks changed up their rotation a little bit going into this series. We thought it was going to be Eduardo Rodriguez who started this game. It was Brandon Pfaadt. I want to talk about that switch up, how the Mets are going to line it up, and just give you another status update on the wild card race at large. We'll get to all of that in just a minute. First, though, quick word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience are what brings home the winning trophy. It is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers to roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you always find exactly what you're looking for. If eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's guaranteed fit is only available to U.S. customers. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. You watch the winnings roll in. Get on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. So think about Tyreek Hill. Will he get more than 90.5 yards in week 1? Aaron Jones, will he run for more than 66.5 yards? You can add those together in a Prize Picks entry, cook up hot takes with your friends, and win real money this football season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long with Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Stay up to date with all the latest in the world of sports when you check out Locked On Sports Today, streaming 24/7 on YouTube. Now, I want to take a minute here to acknowledge again how good Sean Manaea was in this game, particularly with his four-seam fastball, when he's able to execute that pitch up in the zone. And he doesn't, end up throwing it belt high like he did at Corbin Carroll, giving up that home run today. You see guys just can't catch up to it because he gets great extension. He's 6'6". He's a big dude coming from that left side, and he throws nearly a sidearm, and he gets so much ride on that pitch up in the zone. Even when it's 93 up, it jumps on guys. When he gets it up to 96, guys are just struggling to catch up to it, and they struggle to lay off of it. And at times, if they do lay off of it, it'll be called the strike up in the zone. He can paint it up there. That pitch unlocks everything for him. And today, it was especially nasty. Threw it 24 times, got 13 swings. Of those 13 swings, 8 of them were whiffs, 3 of them were fouls. Only 3 balls were put in play on a 4-seam fastball, and he got 6 called strikes as well. So 17 of his 24 4-seam fastballs were strikes. Then there was some balls and then 3 put in play. Whiff percentage, 62%. Again, that is disgusting stuff from Sean Manaea, and that really carries his arsenal. He throws that sinker the most, and that keeps the ball on the ground. Throw that low in the zone. And then you got the sweeper that he can throw backdoor to steal strikes. When you get a lefty up, that can be his strikeout pitch. Also has the changeup. He's just become a really good pitcher. And the Mets are 18-8 when Sean Manaea takes the ball. So that is really important. And you look at what he's done since July. He has gone 7 innings, 7 times at 11 starts. And today, or he's pitched into the 7th, I should say, 7 times at 11 starts. 6 times he completed all 7 innings today, went 6 2/3. But the length he's given the Mets now as their ace, it's been huge for this team. And now it's up to Luis Severino to carry on pick up what he put down to keep the momentum rolling here and beat this Diamondbacks team. I talked about on yesterday's show in the final segment how Sean Manaea and Luis Severino have to be the guys that take the Mets to the playoffs this year. It's on their shoulders. They are the frontline pitchers. They might not have the flashiest names. Obviously, you wish it was Kodai Senga in one of those spots, but that's not going to happen this year. It is on these 2 guys, and Manaea did his part. So now it's up to Sevy to do it as well. As I mentioned, the Diamondbacks shuffled their rotation around. So Fott went today. That means Eduardo Rodriguez is going to pitch on Wednesday. He's a left-handed starting pitcher. A lot of experience, of course, a veteran who spent plenty of years in Boston. Last few in Detroit, was hurt for pretty much all of this year. He's made 3 starts since coming back. This will be his 4th. You will see the righty lineup going up against him. So imagine you're going to see Iglesias back in the lineup. Tyrone Taylor, the way he's been swinging it lately, maybe he gets another start. Starling Marte should be in the lineup instead of Jesse Winker, and hopefully Nimmo can carry over some of that momentum from today's 3-hit game, and the Mets can have another efficient night offensively. Hopefully they can have a couple big innings and give Luis Severino plenty of run support, and we'll see how far Sevy can take the Mets. As I mentioned on yesterday's show, the Diamondbacks are better when they face a righty than a lefty, so that's something to monitor. And the Mets did the right thing to be able to attack the Diamondbacks' weakness. David Peterson will be starting on Thursday against Ryan Nelson. And when you think about the way this shapes up for the rest of the season, you have 30 games left. So 6 turns through the rotation. Sean Manaea will start game 162. But the Mets also have some off days. So if they wanted to, at some point they could skip their 5th starter, and that would allow them to potentially get another start out of Luis Severino. They wanted to get crazy. They can do that a couple of times with the off days they have and end up getting 7 more starts out of Sevy and Peterson. I don't think they would do that because I think they value giving their guys that extra rest to keep them fresh down the stretch. But it is good to know that the way everything's lined up, Sean Manaea, if that game 162 is the one that matters, if the Mets can end up in the playoffs if they win that game, good to know that Manaea will be on the hill, and everybody in this rotation now gets 6 more turns. The question is going to be, who is that 5th starter? Everyone believes Tyler McGill will get a start against the White Sox, which is a good team to have him come up and face. It's essentially a AAA team, honestly, with the amount of young players they have in their lineup. So we'll see what McGill does in that start. He probably gets a couple. And honestly, I think Jordan Montgomery sort of showcased the value that Jordan Montgomery showcased the value that McGill could provide the Mets in September. I think there's a world where when McGill comes up, he stays up and he's that 9th man, that September call-up, if you were, in the Mets bullpen, where when Blackburn's ready, maybe he slides back into the rotation, or maybe Blackburn's that guy. But you look at this bullpen right now for the Mets, I think this season it's really going to come down to Edwin Diaz, Daniel Nunez, Jose Budo, Phil Maton. Danny Young has been throwing really well from the left side. And then you have the 3 wild cards and Adam Ottavino, Ryan Stanek, and Reed Garrett. I think that's basically your group. Obviously, we could see someone like Garrett, if he continues to struggle, get optioned. And Brazabon's with the team now. I expect he'll be the roster move again when they do grab McGill. But having a long man in that bullpen like they had for large portions of this season with Adrian Hauser, I think that could be very beneficial down the stretch. And maybe McGill gets to stick around so that if you have a game where Jose Quintana gets knocked out in the third inning and you're not going to win, where you can put McGill into that game and maybe he saves the bullpen because every single game matters so much. What Montgomery did for the Diamondbacks today really saves them in this series. Now they got a fresh bullpen to try to win this series in these last two games. Hopefully the Mets can have something to say about that and they can win with Sevy on the mounds. And who knows, maybe they get greedy after that. But definitely something that came to my mind when I saw what Jordan Montgomery did for the Diamondbacks today, that, maybe McGill will make his two turns in the rotation and stick around beyond that as a long man for the Mets. Now, when it comes to the wild card race, the Mets did not lose any ground today, but they didn't gain any. The Braves won yet again, and they got Chris Sale going for the final game of their series against the Twins, where they'll be angling for a sweep. Now, I'm going to give you the glass half full approach about Chris Sale starting this game. Yes, stands to reason the Braves probably win and complete that sweep, although it is very hard to finish off a sweep against a good team, and the Twins are still a good team. Glass half full, though, is the fact that Chris Sale will not pitch in that series over the weekend against the Phillies in Philadelphia, a 4-game set. So if there's ever a time where the Mets can gain some ground, this might be the weekend to do it. If the Mets can find a way to beat the Diamondbacks in one of these two games, and then they do what they're supposed to against the White Sox, hopefully the Mets can cut into that 3-game lead that the Braves have. Behind the Mets, you have a couple teams that are actually pretty close. You have both the Giants and the Cubs that are 2.5 games back. And with the Giants, I'm actually not that mad about that because I want them playing good baseball because they can really factor into this race when it comes to the Padres and the Diamondbacks. The Giants play both of those teams 6 more times. So if the Braves are a rocket ship that is just going to take off down the stretch, maybe one of those two teams can collapse and maybe the Giants can play a role in it. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, though, that's going to be all when it comes to our current 2024 coverage for the day because we got something completely different to close the show. Jeff Passan had some notes on free agency that will make you very interested. They talked about Juan Soto and the New York Mets, and I'll give you that update in just a minute. First, though, quick word from our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Liquid IV. Get hydrated with electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients from the #1 powdered hydration brand in America, Liquid IV. What I love about Liquid IV is how it makes you feel. From just the taste alone is awesome, right? I love my strawberry lemonade, but you feel so much more hydrated when you drink it. It's convenient. Just tear open a pouch, pour it into 16 ounces of water. You're good to go. Powdered by Live Hydroscience. There's an optimized ratio of electrolytes, essential vitamins, and clinically tested nutrients that turn ordinary water into extraordinary hydration. No more thirsty summers. When you indulge in hydration with Liquid IV, get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use that code MLB. That is code MLB at checkout. Again, that's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for the game tonight, and that is Game Time. If you're looking in the Arizona area and you're trying to go to the Mets Diamondbacks game, I'm looking at tickets right now on the app where you can get into the ballpark all in for $30. And that is the great thing. They have the all-in prices feature that you can toggle to where you can see what your price is going to be per ticket without any hidden fees. They're all factored in with that all-in pricing feature. You can see the view of your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. And Game Time also has Game Time Picks, which filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. Personally, when I use Game Time, I wait till I'm about to walk into the ballpark. I pull open the app. I find the best possible deals because with Game Time, you are going to get the best deals possible on last-minute tickets. Download the Game Time app today. Create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB. You're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today What time is it? Game time. If you're an everyday listener to the show, make sure you become a Locked On Mets insider. This is our texting service where you can get updates anytime news breaks on the Mets. You can ask me questions anytime. You also can take part in our Locked On Mets signed photo giveaways, and you get the lineup graphic sent to your phone each day so you notice in the starting lineup without ever having to go on social media. If you want to be Locked On Mets insider, find a link in the episode description. Go to subtext.com/LockedOnMets. The New York Mets were in the news today attached to Juan Soto. It's a little bit early to talk free agency, but when one of the most prominent, if not the most prominent, MLB insider puts it out there that the free agency of Juan Soto is expected to come down to the Mets or the Yankees, we got to at least spend a segment on it. So let's just go through what Jeff McNeil said in his free agent notebook. If you're not an ESPN Plus subscriber, not something that you can read, but it was a very interesting article where he talked about really all the top free agents from Soto to Corbin Burns to guys like Matt Chapman and Blake Snell. He had them all in categories. So for Snell and Chapman, it was guys who are going to be able to hit the market again. I can't remember the exact phrasing. I talked about Willy Adames, his control of the market as the only really stud shortstop available. But when it comes to Juan Soto, this is what he said. There are ultimately, at most, a handful of spenders for the biggest free agents. In Soto's case, the Boston Red Sox, Chicago Cubs, and both Los Angeles teams could likely afford him, but are long shots to make a real push. I would throw the Giants in there too, just because they're a team that likes to put big contracts forward. But again, they haven't been able to land these guys. Seattle could use them, but would be scared off by the money. Here's the money quote from the article from Jeff McNeil. At the end of the day, high-ranking front office and ownership level sources believe the winter for Soto is going to play out like this. Yankees versus Mets, behemoth versus behemoth. I mean, as much as I'm loving this season, I can't wait for the offseason now because that is going to be a free agent pursuit for the ages. We wondered, when would Steve Cohen take on the New York Yankees in free agency? When would it happen? He's played nice up to this point. But when they made that trade to get Juan Soto, that was the first time where you thought maybe these teams are going to be in a battle for that player in a year. And it seems like that battle's coming. And I'm going to be very curious how it plays out. And Francisco Lindor already doing some recruiting. Quotes, this is from Lindor to Passan. When it comes to the outfielder from across our borough, he's having a fantastic year, and I hope he goes out and breaks every record out there when it comes to getting paid. If it's with us, it'll be fantastic. He'll help us a lot. I'll tell you what, Francisco Lindor has done exactly what he needed to make the Mets an enticing free agent destination for Juan Soto. And for everybody who wanted this team to sell and have another horrible year, Juan Soto is a reason why this has been a productive and successful season, regardless of if the Mets make the playoffs, because the vibes are good around the Mets. This is not a trash team going into an offseason where they're going to have to really do everything they can to sell themselves as a destination. Francisco Lindor can get on the phone with Juan Soto and talk about what it's like to play in New York, how he's had a great experience, or Soto knows what it's like to play in New York now, but what it's like to play in Queens for the Mets, for this franchise, and why this is a destination he should consider. And he's not just blowing smoke up his you-know-what, because the Mets have had a good season this year and had a 101-win season in 2022. There is something to build around in New York right now with the Mets, and Lindor is the big selling point. And he's having an MVP season that is going to make the Mets more attractive to all free agents, but particularly to Juan Soto, where, yes, he's currently playing with the best player in baseball in Aaron Judge. And you know what? I'll say it. Aaron Judge is better than Shohei Ohtani at hitting, okay? When Ohtani gets back on the mound, he's going to take that mantle again. But when it comes to offensive prowess, there's no one better than Aaron Judge, and there's no duo better than Judge and Soto, potentially in MLB history with what they've done this year and the season they're going to put together when it's all said and done. That's going to be very hard to walk away from. But if the Mets put together an offer that he can't refuse and the Yankees don't match it, and you're talking about the difference of $50 million or more Maybe it comes down to years where the Yankees only go 10, but the Mets are willing to go 13, 14. Hell, they could go 15 years if they wanted to. The Juan Soto free agency is going to be very interesting because it depends on how much the Mets are willing to push the chips forward. And this is the type of free agent that never comes around. We've had Bryce Harper, and now it's Juan Soto, but this age of free agent, it's Soto, it's Harper, it's like Bonds and A-Rod. I have to even go back to see when Barry Bonds hit free agency. But that's the thing. It's just the once-in-a-generation talent that hits the market at 26 years old, and you have so much of his prime still left to dream on, and it lines right up with Francisco Lindor, where that is your 1-2 punch. Your best two players of Lindor and Soto, that can win you a championship. And I think Steve Cohen knows that, and the Mets might spend big there. And it does play into the conversation with Pete Alonso because I believe Pete Alonso becomes the ultimate backup plan for the Mets, which is messed up to say for a guy that has done everything he can to be the franchise player up to this point in his career. But he's a first baseman, not necessarily a good one defensively. And his replacement is across the diamond right now, Mark Vientos. The Mets aren't going to pay both. I know that some fans would say just get them both. I can't see it. If you're going to spend that much money on Juan Soto, a guy that could be a DH at some point, you don't need Pete Alonso on a long-term deal as well. And the Mets can sort of save money at third by sliding Vientos to first, kind of save money at both spots. But if you have Soto in your outfield next year is Juan Soto, Brandon Nimmo, Starling Marte, Tyrone Taylor with Jeff McNeil, and then potentially getting Drew Gilbert or a Jet Williams up. They have a lot of guys that could filter in out there. Third base can be an open competition between Ronnie Mauricio, Brett Beatty, maybe even a Williams or an Acuna potentially. And then also you'd be able to bring back Jose Iglesias on an affordable deal likely to give you that, high floor defender over at the position as well. If the Mets land Juan Soto, they pretty much don't have to do anything else for their position player group next year, and they can just add some pitching and be a ready-made championship contender. So the fact that everyone is sort of setting that stage, and we've been hearing it all year, but now it's getting close, and it's Jeff passing. It's not just a couple, gas bags on the radio talking about it, or myself at my own, the podcast gas bag talking about it. No, this is the preeminent baseball insider, Jeff Passan, whose words are gold in this industry, saying he is talking to owners, he's talking to GMs, and there's two teams that are way out ahead when it comes to those who could sign Juan Soto. It's his incumbent team, the Yankees, and it's the New York Mets. It'll be fascinating to see how the whole pursuit will end up going down. That's for the offseason, though. We probably won't talk about it again until then. But with the reports that came out today, it was worth mentioning to close out the show. Thank you all for tuning in. As always, make sure if you're listening on the audio side, you follow, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. The goal is to get to 10,000 subs by the end of the season. We're running out of time. I appreciate all of you who continue to subscribe. You can follow me on X at Finkelstein Ryan. Follow the show at Locked On Mets. Thank you for making Locked On Mets your first listener, your first watch every day. Not for your second watch. Head over to YouTube and check out the first ever 24/7 streaming channel covering everything in the world of sports, talking about Locked On Sports Today. There are local experts from each team, league-wide experts from each league. Find Locked On Sports Today streaming 24/7 on YouTube.